Howdy, and welcome to the Choose a Happy Day show, a podcast for women who want to up-level their life, manifest those dreams, and just live happier. If you have vision boards, love energy work, are into psychics, and feel you are meant for something more in this life, then this show is for you. Hi, I'm Lorraine Toth, an award-winning filmmaker, author, Reiki master, photographer, and creative genius who also loves to vision board. And I am here to bring you all of the tips and tricks to help you up-level your life. Now let's go and hop on that happy train. Welcome back, everyone, to the Choose a Happy Day podcast. Today, I have a very special guest who I have been dying to meet. We have a mutual friend, Nicole, and she's like, you need to meet her. You're just like her. And yes, so I stalked you on Instagram, as anyone would, right? And today, I'm very excited to introduce Diane Webb, right?
Yes, that's
okay.
correct. Well, for now.
Yeah,
until I change my name to my husband's name. But for now, yeah. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Yes. And I like to the audience, I would describe you as like a manifesting maven. Is that what I should say?
Well, thank you for that. My manifestation journey has been really incredible. I talk about it a lot, but mostly out of spite because I hate how people talk about it.
About manifesting? Yeah. Okay, yes. So yesterday you started a manifesting free mini course, I guess, is what it was called. And I dove right in, of course, and did the whole course last night. And then I signed up for your hypnosis. And I was about to start that before this, but I was like, oh, maybe I better not. Because I didn't want to put myself into like a deep sleep. But it leads me into one of my questions.
Okay.
And for those of you who are listening and not watching on YouTube, I have a list of questions for Diane. And one of them was hypnosis and manifesting. And why does this help?
Sure. So I have been a helping professional for like 20 years.
Okay.
So a long time now.
That's a long time.
And one thing that's certain is that they say there's like 1,000 ways to cut a cake.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so it's not that hypnosis is so much better for manifestation. I believe in it. I'll get to that.
Yes.
It's that there's a lot of different ways to help clear the way for manifestation and prime your subconscious programming and your soul and your spirit for the journey of manifestation.
Yes.
That hypnosis happens to be one of them.
Okay.
But if hypnosis is not for somebody, I would say there's like 1,000 other things you can do.
Yes. Different ways to cut that cake, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Right. So why I like hypnosis after all of these years of watching people, understanding how subconscious programming works and how to deprogram negatives or unhealthy or unhelpful subconscious programming.
Yes.
What I would say about hypnosis is that it's a very efficient and gentle and enjoyable way to go into a deep state of relaxation.
Yes.
And when that happens, you can speak directly to the subconscious mind, right?
Yes.
Because when you're not in a deep state of relaxation, you have all these automatic, organic, and trying to be helpful processes in the brain that will block things from reaching your subconscious mind, right?
Yes.
So if you're in a deep state of hypnosis, a deep state of relaxation, you can speak directly to the subconscious mind about what you want to happen. And you can actually start neuroplasticity, which means brain change right there.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Now, what's cool about hypnosis is if you do it frequently, then it will happen even more easily, right? So you're meditating, you're relaxed, and you're programming your subconscious mind for what you want.
Okay.
So it's pretty great.
Oh, so that was one of my questions. Is it like meditating where, they say you have to do it the 21 days to really program your mind, right? And get used to that?
Sort of like meditation is kind of like bread. And what I mean by that is when we say bread, it's like, you're talking about Italian bread Are you talking about a baguette, whole grain bread, rolls,
gluten-free bread?
right? Like there's so many different kinds, right? Okay. So meditation is great, but there's different types of meditation, and hypnosis is not quite meditation, but it feels like it because it's making you super relaxed. But hypnosis will actually, again, help to prime your brain for something specific.
Okay.
Whereas meditation often is relaxation for the sake of relaxation, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a little bit of a different focus.
Okay. So do they have to go into your hypnosis with a certain thought in mind?
Well, what happens with hypnosis is, in my opinion, and maybe different hypnotherapists would disagree or see it differently, but in my opinion, hypnosis is best suited for a purpose.
Okay.
Right? So clients that I work with, there's been so many different ends, and sometimes I will specifically create hypnosis exactly for one of my clients for what they're trying to create. Right?
Okay. Can you give an example?
Sure. So, one of my clients is an entrepreneur that her manifested desire is to build a team of go-getters alongside her. Right.
Okay.
And so I specifically created a hypnosis for her to call in and partner with people who are equally yoked to her. Right. So she doesn't have to be the leader and lead everyone all the time. She can find a team and kind of surrender into that she can have equals alongside her in her business. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense. Okay.
So, but there's a hypnosis for anything because it's about what you can create as the hypnotherapist. So if you want to have more body positivity, we can do hypnosis on that, you know?
What about soulmates? We always talk about soulmates on this podcast.
Oh,
how about calling in that?
Well, you're going to have to kick me out of here once you start talking about finding love.
That's one of my favorite subjects.
Well, it's so important. And manifesting love, let's be honest, manifesting love and manifesting money are the two things most people are after. And understandably so, because both are very enjoyable things, you know? Right. So, yes. Now, if we're talking about a hypnosis, then it would be, well, what is it that does not open you up to easily find that person for you? Is it an attachment issue? You know, is it that you're rushing into things too much? You know, so what happens is we have programming, we have experiences, we have our psychological makeup, and it might be getting in the way from where we are right now and what we want to create for ourselves.
Okay.
So we're looking at what's the story right here in between what's going on here and what you want to happen.
Yes.
What's kind of like the psychological residue that's blocking that. Let's reimagine all of that, right? So that you can clear the way.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So for those who are, you know, just to break it down for someone who's like no idea what any of this is, it's kind of like, what is your limiting belief blocking you from getting to where you want? So you're at this starting line. What is that limiting belief stopping you to get to the finish line? And
I mean, it's limiting beliefs, but it's also like, you literally have been programmed to think a certain thing. So you don't even see it as a belief.
Okay.
Like you just see it as the way it is. So it could be limiting beliefs, but it could be a perspective that you have because of your past experiences too.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
So, and I love to give, you know, like key takeaways and hard examples for anyone listening. So would that say there's this female and she can't find her soulmate and maybe she has a limiting belief from a past relationship that she's not worthy? Would that be like an example?
Absolutely. And we see that a lot, especially in the more emotionally abusive relationships, you know, when you're with someone who has you convinced that you are not worthy, or that you're unlovable, or you're to this or to that. There's a lot of that manifestation. Right?
I love it. Love it. All right. So I need to get back on to my questions because we kind of jumped and I apologize for that, but I just wanted to dive right into your hypnosis. So as she said, she's been doing this 20 years, right? And are there examples that you can give, you know, that you've actually done in your life with manifesting and how it's worked?
As in me personally?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I'm not shy that I have a very big trauma recovery journey, Um, so I think that like if I am where I am now, anyone could do this, honestly. So if you just like know what to do with your own programming, like that's like, that's my whole thing. So, um, just to be like concise, when I was in school, people tried to convince me not to even bother going to college. And so, as you know, I'm a licensed therapist.
Yes.
I have a master's degree. I'm then a startup founder. And I have, with my best friend, Nicole, as we mentioned before,
Hi, Nicole.
we built a business of over 30 therapists, but if I listened to people early on, they would have told me that college was too much for me. And by the way, I graduated college third in my class. So,
wow.
So what I'm trying to say is like, when you're manifesting, you have a history of trauma, right? Or you have a history of adversity, right? It's really important that you get in tune with your own inner guidance system, and so let's go with building a business. Just there's so many things I could say about my manifestation journey, but that's like a very concrete one, right? So there was actually nobody in my life when I was organizing and starting and designing this business.
Was that 20 years ago?
Yeah. We're about 6 years old now, the business.
Okay.
And no one said that it was a good idea.
Oh, yeah, no.
Right. So I heard like, you're really not going to make a lot of money doing that. It's not worth it. Nicole and I at one point when we were creating the business met with an attorney who told us that because we both had solo practices, he said, "Oh, you're going to turn a good thing into a bad thing."
Yeah.
And it is really good to listen to people who have maybe more life experience or a different perspective. Like that is important. So I don't want to say like you should never listen to anybody. Like, no, that's not the case. But are you listening to other people's feedback above and beyond your own inner guidance system?
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Your own intuition. So with my trauma journey and what happened to me, I felt like I didn't trust my intuition because it had put me, let's be honest, into some scary, threatening situations, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it was like, well, I can't listen to myself, and not listening to myself made me like 30% of who I could be because I became like what other people's fears said I should be instead of what I really could be.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So once I started understanding that I could listen to my inner guidance system, and that it was safe to do so, right?
Yes.
Then this is when I thought of the idea for the business and started making moves in that direction. Got the best business partner in the universe.
She does.
Yeah. Started recruiting employees, and one thing led to another. And, we've grown by, over 400% in 6 years.
That's huge. For anyone not in business, like that is a huge growth, right? And so did you write down, did you put it in your head? Like, did you set those intentions? How did you manifest this growth?
No. So to me, just to be a business owner felt like a humongous manifestation at the time.
Yes.
Right. And so there was a lot of trauma recovery and a lot of learning to listen to my own intuition to even get there. But then, the next growth, I would say, once I was there, it was just kind of like a positive feedback loop, you know? So now I'm here and, I'm just joyously kind of like enjoying the journey. And so that's the rest of that. Yeah.
Love it. All right. So that sounds like a huge success story. And that was 6 years ago. So that was like 2018-ish?
That's correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
400% growth. Huge. Awesome.
It might honestly be more, but I just can't run the numbers in my head right now, but it's at least that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good enough. All right. So I'm going to get into my next question. Just how reframing negative thoughts plays into manifesting magic. Like if you can dive into that and, give some key takeaways on how our listeners can actually apply this to their life. And I got this from, I think, one of your Instagrams.
Yes.
Yes. So,
we were joking in the beginning
Uh-huh.
of our conversation that like, I just really hate how people talk about manifestation. That's
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of like, because like a lot of what I do is traditional psychotherapy.
Mhm.
And the reason why I talk about manifestation so much online is because as a trauma therapist, as someone who knows how the brain works and how
Mhm.
people think and what happens for them, it's been really hard to sit back and just watch mainstream manifestation lead people, I think, in really the wrong direction. And what I
Yes.
mean by that is there's not a lot of conversation about how the brain works, how your thoughts work,
Mhm.
and how it interplays to actually create your life as it is.
Yes.
Right? So there's some myths that you can just focus on what you want and that it will happen if you just focus hard enough.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it's just ridiculous.
Mhm.
It's not how it works.
No, it's not. And then people get frustrated, right?
And then they think manifestation is not real,
Mhm.
which is really unfortunate.
It is.
Because it is real
Mhm.
if you know what to do. So now in come limiting beliefs or
Mhm.
perspectives, right? So we know that there's something called confirmation bias,
Uh-huh.
right? And what that means is that you are going to see what you want to see or what you believe to be true,
Okay.
right? So when you look at your life and if you think to yourself, I'm not the type of person that will find lasting love,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
That's your underlying belief.
Mhm.
So confirmation bias will lead you to automatically and without realizing it, look for evidence to support that.
So does that mean just finding not unworthy, but just partners who don't meet your needs? Is that what that means?
Yeah,
You're
like
just going to
your
attract them?
brain will just kind of like scan and automatically look for any evidence that supports that you are not someone who's going to find a lasting partner.
So do you
right?
attract all the red flags?
You might. Yeah.
Okay.
You might.
Yeah.
Or you might have more tolerance for them because you think that you are not going to find someone anyways.
Okay.
So you might have more tolerance for a red flag when you see it.
Okay.
So, now we're talking very generally. There's
Yes.
always like specifics,
yes.
So now let's say that you work on that,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yes.
And you really zero in on that belief that
Okay.
you're not going to find a lasting relationship.
Yes.
And you're really doing what you can to like get in the history of that and reorganize that in your subconscious mind. And now you see yourself as someone totally capable of having a long-term relationship.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now your confirmation bias is going to help you because you're looking for evidence that you can and you will.
Mhm.
And you definitely will find it.
Mhm.
Right? So now you're looking at, there really are good, available, emotionally healthy partners in the world.
Yes.
Oh, and I can meet them.
Mhm.
Oh, and I don't have to deal with this person who's making me feel like I'm not important to them because I can find a healthy, aligned relationship for me. Right? So now it just changes everything. So in one way, your momentum is 100% stalled without that underlying belief. In another way, your momentum is just skyrocketing towards your desires because of your underlying belief, right?
Yes.
And that is how manifestation is really real.
Okay. Perfect. So that's what the limiting beliefs was. And
Right.
yeah. And for anyone who wants to see, what is your Instagram handle? If they want to see all of these amazing reels.
Sure. It's that spiritual shrink.
That's originally like how I started stalking you. Well, not stalking, but just loving your content that you're putting out. So it's great. If anyone's just wants to dip their toes in, and get a feel, That spiritual shrink.
That's it.
All
Yeah.
right. What a great name.
It was a name that I came up with when I was just playing around with TikTok a long time ago, and I'm attached to it now.
Yes.
So
I feel it suits you just fine. Yes.
Thank you. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. So my next question was, and we kind of already spoke to this, but trauma and how it blocks manifestation. And do your beliefs actually matter?
Yeah. I think that's what's tough about trauma. As a fellow survivor, trauma, when you go through it, depending on what it is and the duration and your age and yada yada. But one thing about trauma is that it instantly leads your brain to rewire into scarcity and fear, whether we like it or not.
Is that because that's what it's familiar with? So it just keeps going back to that familiar place?
It depends, like someone that has childhood trauma that lasted years, it would, then fear would be familiar.
Okay.
Right. So, now let's say that someone doesn't have a trauma history and something terrifying happened to them at age 22. Right. So this is what we call a single incident trauma. That incident, whatever it is, they too would instantly get some programming, into scarcity and into fear,
Okay.
Trauma is an adaptive trait. Now I'm going to go on a little tangent. So just bear with me.
That's good because I really don't know anything about this piece.
So, one thing that is confusing about trauma is that it has helped our species to survive. Okay. And I'll explain why I'm saying that. So if you can imagine way, way back when humans were hunter-gatherers.
Yes.
Right. So let's say that someone was hunting for food in a certain part of the woods and came back a very vicious animal. Some type of predator, say like a bear or something, just for example's sake, right? What the person's brain would do right at that moment is galvanize for fleeing.
Okay.
Or for freezing.
Yes.
Right. Or for fighting.
Okay.
And we call that PTSD, right?
Oh, okay.
So, let's say this person sees the bear, their body automatically, brain body system galvanizes them to flee, and they flee very quickly, right? Now, let's say like fast forward a week or two, and they stumble into that part of the woods. Their brain has imprinted fear with where they are, right?
Yes.
So they're going to have hypervigilance. They might have re-experiencing when they're in that part of the woods, and their whole inner system is going to say, "Get out of here. This is where that thing happened."
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So this is what we call PTSD. This process in the brain that is trying to help us prevent future harmful, threatening, perhaps deadly situations.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
But in the modern times, we might have that response when we're not actually in a life-threatening situation.
Yes, there is no bear at Walmart. Yes.
But now we could be. Now, I certainly have many clients that have been in life-threatening situations, and I'm helping them to manifest a happy life after that, right?
Yes.
So I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It certainly does, but we could also get a trauma reaction from something that's not,
Okay.
Now, if someone has been through a traumatic incident or incidents, and they feel that the experience has led to beliefs about fear, about their worthiness, about scarcity, then it certainly would get in the way of the mindset to be open to what they're trying to manifest.
Okay.
I'm going to give a very specific example.
I love specifics.
Okay. So let's say that now I'm going to give a trigger warning because what I'm going to say might be hard for some of your listeners to hear.
Okay. Yes. Then I can put that on the show notes too.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's say that, or this is a trigger warning about emotional abuse and stalking. Okay. Let's just say, for example's sake, that someone was in a traumatic relationship with a manipulative or domineering partner.
Okay.
And that partner started to stalk them, right? Now, the experience of being a stalking victim was the trauma, right? And we could all understand why someone who went through that type of trauma would be triggered by visibility. online.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Right. So they don't want to have public profiles, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, let's say that person wanted to start, like they truly desired to have an online business or to do some type of online marketing.
Okay.
Right? I would hope they would find someone like me.
Yes.
To help them.
Okay.
Because what we would do is help them to do trauma recovery about being a stalking victim.
Okay.
Help them to increase their empowerment, sense of safety after that.
Yes.
Right? As much as is reasonably possible.
Right.
Right?
Right.
To help them clear the way to comfortably and effectively do online marketing.
Okay.
Otherwise, when they do online marketing and have more visibility, they're going to trip up their nervous system, and rightly so.
Okay.
Because it's going to feel very threatening to be very visible, right? But when you do that work, it just makes it easier for you. Right? If you do that work underneath the fear, right?
Yes.
And when you're not as afraid of it, and when you've done a lot of personal development on it, then when you have increased visibility, it does not feel so threatening anymore.
Okay.
And then you can go towards your dream of doing online marketing with more ease.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. That's great. Oh, that's a good example. Thank you for that
You're welcome.
hardcore example for our listeners.
Yeah.
All right. So my next, you kind of already spoke about this, but in your video last night, I think you were talking about the neurodivergence. And what is that? You speak of this in your free mini course.
So neurodivergence, people that have anything that's not like a typical brain. So if you think about, ADHD or on the spectrum, or, my ADHD is off the charts, so I'm like very familiar with this, right? But see what happens with mainstream manifestation, if you listen to that and try to follow it to the letter, and it's like, well, just start doing the things, see, get your manifested goal, right?
Yes.
So then they're like, okay, Roger that, going to start doing all the things. Then what happens is people overwhelm themselves and then start backtracking, especially people that might be on the spectrum, or people that have ADHD or PTSD or any of these, right? And so they're doing all the things, just going like full speed ahead, right?
Yes.
And then their nervous system is bringing them back, or like they're burning the candle at both ends. Then the end result is they're feeling like there's something wrong with them.
Yes.
Right.
Because they didn't complete what they set out to do.
Right.
Yeah.
In reality, what we can say is, no, you don't have to do it that way. Slow and steady is fine. And also, by the way, instead of doing all those things and, burning yourself out, first focus on your inner belief, your belief that you can do it, your belief in possibility, right? And when you're focusing in on these underlying beliefs, just like we were talking about, then it's way better than just full speed ahead.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. So don't chat. That's what neurodivergence is. Okay. Perfect. And are there any tips that our listeners, and of course they can get your free mini course, right, by signing up, but is there a tip that we can give them? They're driving, they're listening to this, and they're like, maybe I really dislike my job, or I'm not in a happy relationship. Is there a tip that they can use to actually manifest what they want?
Yes. The one most important tip is focus on your belief that what you want is actually possible.
Yes.
That is far and wide the most important manifestation technique out there, is to actually focus on the belief. If someone's in a job that they don't like, focus on your belief that a better job is available.
Okay.
Right? If you want, did you say like someone who, your example was like someone who wants a different relationship?
That would be another thing. Yeah. That's another common, feedback I get, like I want a different partner or a relationship.
Right. So focus on the belief that there is that right relationship in escrow for you,
Yeah.
And so people kind of dismiss that tip because it seems so obvious, but I'm like, don't dismiss it. It's obvious for a reason, because it's important, right? So don't just say, oh, I believe it, and then be over with it. Like really sit with it.
Okay.
Like, does all of you, embodied mind, body, really believe it? Right? And if any part of you does not, that's where your effort should start.
Okay. So maybe they're sitting with it and they're trying to manifest and believe that the right job is out there in escrow or something. And maybe they feel like a little chest, like that. Is that a piece of them that maybe doesn't believe it?
Definitely could
Okay.
be. Like if your head is saying, oh, I do believe it, like you
Uh-huh.
intellectually believe it, but then deep in your heart, you actually don't,
Uh-huh.
you'll be able to feel that,
Okay.
and look back into, and this is actually in my free course a little bit. I encourage people to look back into their personal history.
Uh-huh.
There's probably a story behind why you don't believe it, and
Yeah.
get familiar with that story, right? And start to just consider a different way, right?
Okay.
Better yet, find a coach or a therapist or someone to rewrite that story with you, but for now, just go in and honestly say, do I actually believe it's possible? If I don't, if part of me doesn't, why might that be? And what can I do about it to begin to believe?
Okay.
Right?
Yes, that's great. Perfect. Thank you. So I had one more thing so you talked in your course about daily gratitude in the practice. And I, of course, love that. And I have a daily gratitude journal. So can you speak on how important daily gratitude is?
Yeah. To bring it back to what we were saying about the confirmation bias, gratitude just sets the stage for what you want. It changes your perspective. There are studies that have been found that with a daily gratitude practice, you increase your endorphins at a neurological level, like to a humongous degree, right? So you're feeling better, you're feeling more fulfilled, but with that focus on what you're grateful for, you're already looking around your life for what's going right.
Yes.
And that just sets a complete good stage for the rest of your manifestations.
I agree. Yeah. And it's that law of attraction piece, right? You're thinking about all those good things in your life and it's just attracting more good.
It is. Yeah. And, it's important to look at the bad as long as you're also looking at the good.
Yes.
It's like both things, not like one thing exclusively, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Oh, love that. All right. So can you please tell everyone listening or watching on YouTube how they can get in touch with you and about this manifesting course?
Sure. Thank you. So like we joked about before, I'm that spiritual shrink, and that's on TikTok and on Instagram.
Okay.
I'm pretty active on Facebook, just under my name, Diane Webb. And for access to the course, there's links on those socials for it. And my email address is manifestwithdiane@gmail.com.
Oh, I love it. And I actually did do her free manifesting course last night, and I was listening and watching as I was getting ready for the, my bedtime routine. And it really had some great tips. And like you said, you're different than the other manifesting courses I've listened to or watched and everything. It was more like practical. So if you're just, getting into this whole manifesting space, I highly recommend your free course because it was very like practical, like step by step. You kind of walk them through, which I enjoyed.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for saying that.
Oh, thank you. All right. So again, what is the name of your Instagram and TikTok?
That spiritual shrink.
Oh, thank you so much for listening, everyone. And thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
And happy manifesting, everyone. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. To stay connected to me, please visit my website at chooseahappyday.com. And at the bottom, just sign up for my email list to be notified of any upcoming events, book launches, as well as new podcasts. Until next time, have a happy day.